So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. My name is Al Graham, and we are coming to you live, that's right, live, here at lifestyleradio.ca. Tonight, my joint host, Debbie Stultz-Giffin, has brought us a guest who has been and is still involved in so much stuff within the cannabis community these days that I'm not sure where Debbie's going to begin. There's just so much. But before we find out, I'm going to have a quick chat with Debbie. Deb, you there?
Hi, Al. I sure am.
Good, good. And how's things at your end of the country?
Not too badly.
Good,
Not too
good.
badly.
Not too bad.
Things have certainly been busy and will continue to be for Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana Society. This past weekend, actually, we had a crew in Moncton for a wellness expo, and next weekend we'll be doing the very same thing in Halifax.
Fantastic. That's great. Public cannabis education.
Oh, and the public is so thirsty for that information, Al.
They are, aren't they? I'm sure we'll get into more of that as the night progresses. The public wanting more. You know what this week is, Deb? I have to say happy anniversary to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's 3 years. 3 years we've been together doing the radio show.
Wow. Time sure does fly.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, thank you,
Okay.
and happy anniversary to you as well.
Oh, thank you. All right. With that over, I just want to get Debbie. I don't know I've mentioned in some messages and talked with you and the other ladies. We're giving away some free TY stuff, and last week we did a contest again for some free things. And I just asked the people to go to our website, Pace Online or pace-online.ca, and have them send me a message, let them know that they're looking for some free things. And we had some people do that. And today we drew a name out of a hat. And you'll never guess who the winner is.
We should almost have a drum roll.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That works.
It works. And the name that came to me, Facebook name, is Jack in the Jet. I haven't got a new idea what Jack in the Jet's real name is, but that's the Facebook name, and I will be sending them a message so they'll know that they have won an autographed issue of Treating Yourself, issue 1, a 2010 DVD, which is a 6-set DVD setup, as well as some TY pens for putting on their carrying bags or hats or whatever.
Wow. What an awesome grouping of prizes, and congratulations, Jack.
You guys right? Yeah, congratulations, Jack. And I'll be sending them a message to find out how to get a hold of them. So, and if anybody else who's interested in winning some free things, just go to the Pace website at pace-online.ca. Send me a message, and your name will go in a hat. And if you entered this week or last week and you didn't win, by all means, just keep on entering. It doesn't matter. You can enter every week. That's free. That's you're more than welcome to. Now, as far as news items, before we bring our guest in, Deb, what's going on over at Shoppers Drug Mart?
Well, it looks as if they've put in an application or are about to help Canada to get themselves in line to be able to distribute medical cannabis.
Now, from my understanding,
certainly certainly causing quite a flurry of comments in social media.
Yeah, it sure is. Big time. Now, as far as they would become a licensed producer, like that's all they have right now is licensed producers. So would they start producing it, or were they trying to be distributed?
My understanding in what I read is that the role that they wish to assume is one of distribution only, so that they would in effect become a middleman, and if anything, it would subject patients to a built-in dispensing fee.
Yeah.
Which could be problematic, although if certainly I'm hearing rumblings about moves to begin to cover medical cannabis by some insurance companies. So for those people, it would be a plus, I would think.
I would think. I also wonder if people start to get cannabis covered under their plan, would that be a way for the government to stop patients from growing? Because then the access issue would be maybe reduced.
Well, true enough. It's certainly one that's going to be more than interesting to watch unfold.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens over time with that. And the last thing we wanted to touch on was in Ottawa. They're going after, it seems like they're going to go after the landlords like they're doing in Toronto, trying to shut down all the dispensaries.
Well, I know it's absolutely crazy that they're going after the landlords as opposed to going in and talking to the dispensaries if they're going to make any kind of a move to do anything.
Yeah, well, apparently from what I've read, they're going to go in and actually threaten them with forfeiture.
And so, I'm guessing that a lot of them will comply.
Yeah, they could very well. I guess over time we'll find out. See what happens, because there's like 16 of them in the city. The one I read.
Another one that'll be interesting to watch for sure, but that definitely seems like a small explosion in Ottawa, because for years there was nothing.
Nothing, exactly. Well, did some of them go from Toronto to there? I'm looking at the list here. I see some names that look familiar, but some that don't. But people change names as they go along anyways, right? So
definitely. But it seems like a scary trend, and one I suspect that they figure will save them money at the end of the day if they don't have to go in with law enforcement.
Well, I look at this it's passing the buck down to the municipality as well, because now the municipal taxes are paying for the enforcement of a federal law.
Well, certainly, and maybe this is a good point to bring our guest into the conversation, because Tracy's certainly played an instrumental role in Toronto in speaking up about Project Claudia and all of the raids and attempts at closing dispensaries there. Haven't you been, Tracy?
I certainly have been, and for those that don't know, it kind of fits in as well. The Karma Cup that recently happened in Toronto this last weekend, which I was honored to be on the team to help with. We were also hit with landlord threats by municipal licensing and standards, and threats of forfeiture from our landlord, where we had planned to have the original event, which is why there has been a scramble this last week to have a venue change for the Karma Cup.
Nope. Yeah. Just so you know, everybody, this is Tracy Curley. We didn't mention Tracy's last name, but yeah, Tracy Curley, as she said, one of the organizers of the Karma Cup in the city. And we really appreciate her coming on to the show. She's been very, very busy. So we're happy to have some time with her. So.
Yes. So while working on with dispensaries here, we were actually expecting to speak before municipal licensing and standards today. But they took dispensaries off the agenda, and they were not part of the discussion today. So we're not sure
How many
exactly.
times? How many times has that happened to you guys? That's a few now, isn't it? Where you've been on the agenda, or
This would have been the second time for dispensaries, and we did try to go back a few times before municipal licensing and standards to discuss the enforcement tools that they've been using. Enforcement tools available to municipal licensing and standards in Toronto has been on the agenda a couple of times. We've tried to squeeze in anywhere where they will let us speak, but they are stonewalling us pretty hard over here.
oh, Deb?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it's unreal.
We're almost having weekly raids of various dispensaries here now.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing 2 to 3 a week that they're coming after.
Yep.
Roughly how many dispensaries would you estimate there are in Toronto, Tracy?
There's over 100 now. What I think was quite amusing, and I tried to point this out to municipal licensing, obviously their tactics are not working because there are currently more dispensaries in Toronto than there were pre-Project Claudia. So this was obviously not an effective tool. But they're going to try to keep hammering away at it and see what they can do, I guess.
Well, it's interesting to see them taking such a tough stance when you've got Vancouver and Victoria who've established standards and guidelines.
It's actually kind of heartbreaking for me. I've always thought of Toronto as a very progressive city. I'm also from the East Coast. And now a Toronto girl, and I kind of loved how, 15 years ago, Toronto was an incredibly progressive city. We were the city that was allowing gay marriage. We were the city that had a vapor lounge. We were the city that had all of these things. And now, for the city of Toronto to tell me that their hands are tied, I was kind of disgusted to find out that Port Alberni is apparently more of a world-class city now than Toronto is. It's hard as a citizen to watch this happen.
Oh, it has to be very difficult.
Um,
And to see them flailing away and trying to do things and realizing that it's not making a lick of difference as far as the objective they're shooting for.
And I'm not gonna lie, we're a bunch of hardcore activists in Toronto. We've been doing this a long time. We're a great team, and we'll figure ways around it. We always do. So that was kind of the theme for the Karma Cup this last week as well. There was no stopping us. It was going to happen one way or the other, if it killed us.
Oh. I'm sure it almost did kill you.
A little close.
Well, I can appreciate the stress and work that comes with pulling off an event, but I can't begin to imagine how stressful it must have been to have had the venue pulled at the last minute.
Oh, I have friends that have been working in the industry of event planning for decades who just looked at me blankly and were like, I want to throw up. Just hear about it. And I was like, yeah, that's the right feeling. And we just, Sarah Sunday is a rock star. That woman did not flounder once. We were moving, we were going, we would figure it out. And she did. She was amazing. We had a new venue and moved an entire festival of thousands of people within 36 hours.
Yeah. It wasn't like you moved the festival, but then you got to move everything around. Like I noticed that there was fencing that all had to be put in place.
We had to bring the porta potties. We had to buy tents because the tenting company that had been working with us dropped us when we lost our venue. So we were really on our own.
Yeah.
So there was more than just venue hunting.
Oh yeah, there was more. Oh, much more than venue hunting, because part of the Karma Cup is we had some delusions of grandeur this year. I'm not going to lie. Our plan was for a very large heated tent. We were going to have live glass blowing, a live art exhibition, the normal speaker stage, a gala dinner, 65 vendors and exhibitors. 6 food trucks. We had this huge, what I could only describe as a circus for stoners, created. And then all of a sudden, 36 hours before the event, we had nothing. We didn't even have the tents any longer. We didn't have porta potties. We didn't have anything.
Oh.
And so we had to find a new venue for the normal conference. We had to find a new venue for the gala dinner for all of our judges and competitors, and we had to find a new exhibition space. And then contact everyone and tell them that everything had changed and where to meet us when, Saturday morning.
And what about the vendors? As far as
the vendors, oh yeah, the vendors were fantastic. In rolling with the punches that we were dealing with, because all of a sudden they're getting emails from us saying, the rumors are going out that we'd lost our venue, and of course they had a ton of questions, and a few of them did back out, but the majority of them were in. They were like, well, we support you, we'll keep going, let's do this. So we couldn't actually release the location of the event until Friday evening. So I have a little chihuahua who has, the wind has blown and she has decided that she doesn't like it. But we couldn't release the information until Friday evening. So our vendors actually had about 12 hours notice of where to meet us with all their gear and set up their booths. And when we'd done the late night phone call saying, hey, we could really use some help at 6 o'clock in the morning getting this all done, I literally burst into tears when I walked onto the site Saturday morning and saw how many people had come out to help us. It was so heartwarming.
Nice.
We had so many hands to help us put up tents and get tables in that we literally only opened about 15 minutes late.
Oh.
That was the really neat thing I found, sitting here in Nova Scotia, sort of watching the weekend unfold, was that very sense of spirit that you're talking about, and the camaraderie and just everybody seeming to have a really good time in spite of all of these last minute changes that you guys had to go through.
And we were very fortunate to find a venue space in an area of the city that is so forward thinking and accepting. So we actually ended up in Toronto's Gay Village, which was actually as a cannabis based event was really the safest place for us to be. Not only are they accepting and understanding of the issues of medical marijuana, but we were in the middle of a neighborhood of protesters.
Yeah.
Which does feel a lot safer, especially considering all the enforcement that had been used against us thus far. It felt and that neighborhood is amazing in general. We added a little bit extra magic this weekend. It was lovely.
It was really nice, Deb. It was too bad that you couldn't have been there, but there was people. The place was packed, especially on Saturday. Like bumping into people. Al from the 420 radio show and myself and Kim Cooper were doing the live broadcast, and the wires get caught on people because it was just that many people there, and you could out on the street when we arrived. We probably had, 45-minute wait. But when we got to the booth, we looked back and the line was longer. It was just, people just kept coming from everywhere.
It was fantastic. We had lineups most of the weekend. Even at one point when I did get back to the exhibitor space, and there wasn't a lineup, so I thought, oh, well, it's a lot quieter today. Because it was about 11 o'clock in the morning. I'd stop by the normal stage for a little bit in the morning. And when the gentleman at security just looked over at me and showed me his attendance counter, the little counter that he holds in his hand, and I looked at it, and we had 650 people inside.
Nice. All right.
At 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
An hour after the door opens.
Yep.
Oh.
So we couldn't have asked for a better weekend, really. I mean, Toronto citizens really let their opinion be heard because they stood in that line. They still came.
Yeah, they did. Sure.
And they came in droves.
Oh.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Yes.
People showing up, spending money. They're voting with their feet, their activity. It's
very much so. And I had a couple of patients that I deal with personally that had never been to anything like this before, and to show support, they had come to Toronto to come check out this event. And I wasn't really sure what they were going to think because, again, it was all so scattered, and I felt like I'm OCD. I'm a East Coast military brat, so I'm very much a planner, and I feel bad things aren't going the way that they're supposed to. But everybody I talked to, we had people that walked around and talked to our vendors to see if they had any complaints. And there really wasn't a one. We're getting some squawking on the internet, which every event always does.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, just the fact that our vendors and the people that traveled so far to come here in uncertain times, and they were happy and they're looking forward to coming back, was probably one of the most amazing feelings that I could ever ask for.
Yeah, I saw one post where a person said that they're involved in the Left Expo in Toronto and Vancouver, and they had more business with you guys at your event.
Yep. One of the businesses, House of the Great Gardener, who's a seed company, and has some great, wonderful CBD strains available for patients. He let us know that he had actually done more in sales by noon on Saturday than he had done in the whole weekend in Vienna.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go for a break. Time to pay some bills. And then we'll continue about this Karma Cup when we get back. But just to let you know, the music tonight's going to be a little bit different. When we go on the break, we're going to go international and a little bit of festive because Monday's Halloween, right? And it's right. We're all enjoying Halloween. So tonight, the music we're going to hear from is the Toys, and we're going to hear some of their song Monster Hash. And then when Debbie and I will continue our talk with Tracy Curley. This is the Pace Radio Show on lifestyleradio.ca.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
I was working in the lab late one night when I heard the gurgle of a water pipe. So I turned to see my monster in a cloud of smoke, who said, "This shit ain't bad. Here, have a toke."
We smoked some hash.
We smoked some monster hash.
Some monster hash.
It was his personal...
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
The National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis is a group of not-for-profit organizations dedicated to influencing government policy with factual evidence. Our mission is to ensure that a constitutional medical program is developed that will address the concerns of all Canadians that require therapeutic cannabis. The task force is looking for dedicated people who are willing to contribute to our cause. We have formed this task force to foster a unified approach and focus on lobbying the federal government and Health Canada. We represent the combined expertise of thousands of patients with more than a decade of experience. As a task force participant, you, your business, or your group will have an opportunity to show that you care and offer your unique skills to promote the cause. If you would like to get involved, go to medcanataskforce.org. That's medcanataskforce.org and use the Contact Us link to get started. Help us help you.
Tune into the Pace Radio Show and catch Kim Cooper, Debbie Stultz-Giffin, or Alison Merlin, along with myself, Al Graham, as we talk to Canadian and international cannabis advocates who are working hard to help patients and to end cannabis prohibition. Catch us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at lifestyleradio.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck Seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck Seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Parted in the castle with the living dead. Mouths were dry and eyes were red. The ghouls and goblins shrieked and screamed. Won't somebody please pass the Visine?
They smoked some hash.
They smoked some monster hash.
Some monster hash.
From Frankie's personal
We
stash.
smoked some hash.
And they
Welcome back. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. Not only are we live here at lifestyleradio.ca, but you can also find us live over at Spreaker, Shoutcast, and TuneIn Radio. Before I bring the ladies back in, I'd like to remind everyone that the 420 Radio Show is this Friday, and I'd like to invite you to join Al and his crew as they have their very well-known guest, Dr. Bob Malamine, who, as everybody knows, is involved in the cannabis research as well as cannabinoid research. So he will be joining Al and everybody else, Ross and Laurie and them, and talking to them about cannabis and the science behind the plant. So tune in Friday at 7 p.m. Catch the 420 Radio Show here at lifestyleradio.ca. Tonight I'm joined by our guest, Tracy Curley, one of the Karma Cup organizers, plus my joint host, Debbie Stultz-Giffin of the Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana. Ladies, before the break, we were talking about the cup, and I'm sure we're going to continue along that line. Deb, I'm sure you'll have a question. I've got some, but I thought that maybe I'd let you get going here.
Thanks, Al. Tracy, during the break, you were talking about some things actually that you and Sarah and the Karma Cup team had to go through last minute that folks might not have even crossed the average person's mind. I'm wondering if you'd like to share those things with our listeners.
Of course. So one of those things, it was just all the last minute things of moving everything from making sure our catering delivery had moved addresses to making sure that all the vendors and volunteers knew where our new location was. But it was also ensuring that, we'd done a lot of advertising and promotion for this event to happen on Polson Street in Toronto. And then all of a sudden we had to move locations completely. So one of the things I was doing in the wee hours of the morning, we didn't actually manage to get our shuttle bus. We'd already advertised the shuttle bus from Union Station, one of the major transit hubs, from Union Station to Polson Pier was already part of our plan because we wanted to promote responsible use. And we didn't want anybody to drive if they didn't have to, especially with a lot of traffic closures in the city this past weekend. We wanted to make it as accessible to people as possible, even before we had the venue change. When we had the venue change, we obviously had the first shuttle bus diverted to our new location. But I also had to get a second shuttle bus to meet people at our originally advertised location to get them to the new venue. So that second bus wasn't actually finalized and paid for until 2 o'clock this Saturday morning. And did its first run with 5 people on it at about 10:15, 10:20 that morning. So it wasn't a lot of people on the bus for that first run, but I don't think I've ever been so happy to see 5 people get off a bus.
And I bet they were 5 pretty happy people too.
Yeah, and I've talked to some people that rode the shuttle buses back and forth, and ideally, you know, in the woulda, shoulda, coulda, and what we'll do better next time, it would have been great if we could have had some volunteers on the bus to kind of give people like a little tour of the city, even as they ventured their way up to the new venue space. But it's something we'll look at to next year. We're already looking at ways to improve, and we learned a lot this last weekend. So hopefully the improvements be noticeable.
Well, I'm sure with the change of venue, after you had everything carefully lined up and planned and having to move in a smaller space and scatter things around in 36 hours, that there would probably be a few things you would do differently another time.
Most definitely, but I really need to give shout outs to a few organizations. First of all, for those unfamiliar with Vapor Central, one of the lounges on Yonge Street at 667 Yonge Street, they were fantastic. They opened their doors to us right away, all weekend. Their staff came in early to open an hour early so that we could get the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, we could get their speaker stage up and running. And they also hosted our award ceremony, which was packed and unfortunately way too big for the venue. But all the staff and all the people there were so fantastic in trying every way to accommodate us. I am so eternally grateful to them. I'm grateful to Mark Emery for he was open. Mark Emery and Chris Goodwin's Cannabis Culture Store, they were open at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning for all the volunteers, for us to get together, for somewhere for us to keep warm.
Nice.
Mark opened up his bathrooms in Cannabis Culture all day for those who didn't want to use a porta potty, which most business owners are lax to do. And we were just really so fortunate to have a community behind us that believed in karma. And believed in us and helped us pull it off in such amazing ways. I can't speak for Sarah, but I know that she feels the same way that I do. There's certainly a lot of gratitude we owe people for stepping up and not giving up on us.
Mm-hmm. And those are the people that that'll be there when you need them again. More than likely, if they're available. Because it takes volunteers to run something so huge, something so big, and then, you're describing the setup down at Polson's. It reminded me of Treating Yourself, the expo. Yeah, I mean, we were trying. One of the reasons, people. There's a lot of rumors flying around about how things happened, but one of them that I've heard is that of course, they couldn't do it where there was a liquor license. There was no liquor licensing involved. There was a lot of thought put into the original venue space. We had a history here in Toronto of doing the Global Marijuana March, a very large event. And one of the reasons that we lost that event is because the city pulled permits because it was on city. So our plan was to divert that by renting private property out in an industrial area without a liquor license, away from children in schools and out of the public eye, but still within the downtown core that would allow us to throw this huge event. We actually took into consideration all the challenges we've met here in Toronto when we've run events. This is not new for any of us, but certainly the using of Project Claudia tactics on us was not something we even saw coming. No.
Oh,
No.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I was absolutely floored when I caught wind of it on social media, that they would go to those lengths to try to shut you down.
Yeah, I mean, our first indication that something was wrong was the city, with the production company that we had worked with, we were working with. They had done events of this size, almost of the exact same layout, in the area. This is something they're very experienced in doing. And for the very first time ever, they were denied the build permits for our large tents. And so that was the first indication that something was wrong. But we rolled with it. We went, all right, well, we'll ditch the heated tents. We'll redesign how the festival works. We're still going, no problem. You know, so we'll be a little chilly, whatever, you know. And we realized we were going to have to change a few things, and then, which was stressful. And then 2 days later, realized that we had to change everything.
How'd you come up with the new venue?
We actually, I actually believe that was help from Chris Goodwin. We had a number of venues to look at by Thursday. We had 3 on the list that all kind of met our needs. The one on Church Street was actually one of the smaller venues, but the safest. So one of the venues we were looking at was out in the Etobicoke area, which is a high enforcement area right now. Their dispensaries are getting hit quite hard, and it's a very big. It was a very big open area. It wouldn't have been as easy to acclimate into the area. We would have set off somebody's alarm bells for sure. The second location, again, was good size-wise, but because of the Gardner closing, it was almost inaccessible for people. So, and Church Street, I mean, really, if that parking lot had just been, you know, a little bit bigger, I don't know what we would have been able to do on that space. But we've got plans for next year already. We're talking to people. We've got plans. We know what our challenges were this year. And we'll work around them to make Karma Cup 2017 even better.
Cool.
I have every faith that you will.
I'm still saving a ticket for you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Have you heard from the? Have you heard from the city since the cup? The police or anything? Have you heard anything?
Not yet.
Now we were talking about the dispensaries and the landlord situation.
Yeah.
Being that this area where the event was held was a parking lot, would there be any zoning issues with you having another parking lot down the road, or even with this one?
Well, it wasn't a zoning issue. It was threats to the landlord.
Yeah.
They threatened to take away his multi-million-dollar property down by the lakeshore. He conceded.
Right.
So it wasn't it wasn't the zoning issue, because nowhere is zoned for marijuana, as we all know, or for cannabis. And so it was just the fact that the same tactic they're using. It's illegal. If it's happening on your property, we will fine you or take your property.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what, the original property owner was told. And apparently, the landlords of the dispensaries, as victims of Project Claudia, one of the reasons that we were late on announcing our location is we wanted to protect the second lot owner as well. We didn't want to put him at risk of being fined or approached by municipal licensing and standards when we did it. And truthfully, we popped in and popped out before they even knew we were there.
Yeah. And did you hear any complaints from the neighbors?
No, there was a gentleman who vends on Church Street. He sells jewelry. I met him when we were closing down for the weekend. His name is John, and he was out front of one of the other businesses kind of almost in the middle of our lineup to get in. And he's already asked to vend on the inside next year.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we had some great people. Like we outside, I don't know if you saw them. We had the Pig Rig. Big D's House of Munch was our only food truck that we were able to take with us. And the only reason he made it is because I tried to cancel him. Because we didn't have the space, we didn't have power. If he'd have to run off a generator if we couldn't provide for him. And he's like, I will run off a generator, just find a place for me to be. And so again, Mark and Chris were fantastic and gave him permission to park out front of Cannabis Culture on the first day. And he actually parked directly right in front of the venue the second day. But there was no way he was missing it. He was going to come down and he was going to park at the Karma Cup one way or the other because he wanted so badly to be part of this event. And the food trucks that we did have to cancel at last minute, they've all come back to us and said, we're so sorry this happened to you. When you're ready again next year, let us know.
Great. That's always good to know that you still got support that way.
Oh, and like shout out to the sponsors. Like we had our platinum sponsors were Beard Brothers and Thompson Caribou, Cannabis Culture. They picked up and they came in and they never gave up on us for a second. They were just like, where do we need to be and what time do we need to be there?
Oh, those boys in the Caribou booth, they were just hopping all weekend.
Oh yeah, and Craig from Expert Joints, he made sure he emceed our awards ceremony, and he made sure that he kind of kept the media part and the entertainment and the information part of us going all weekend, which was lovely. Honestly, I can say this. I would have been pretty proud of this event if I'd had a couple of months to plan it, let alone 36 hours.
6 hours. Oh, for sure. Hats off to
certainly the hardest week of our lives, but I think if the event had gone off without a hitch, the complainers and the whiners and the everything else, those small little complaints that we've gotten since, would have probably hurt a lot more. Right now, it's like we ran through landmines, sticks and stones mean nothing now.
That's right, for sure. Big time.
Well, you were saying as well during the break that not only did you have the venue pulled out from under you, you mentioned the tent permits.
The tenting
being denied, but you had to buy tents in the end.
We had to buy 30 tents to provide 40 booths. We had to, I think we went through, Sarah would know this better, but I think it was 3 security companies we had to go through before we had one that stuck with us. Everything.
They didn't look too busy.
No, we got them back for next year. They had a great time.
Sure. Okay, we've got to go for a commercial break. We're running a little bit late. Tonight we're featuring the music by the Toys, and we've gone festive with their song Monster Hash. So when we return, Deb and I will continue our conversation with Tracy Curley of the Karma Cup. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Toking on a ball. Wolfman said, don't bogart that, pass it along. The swamp thing was toasted, rolling on the floor, laughing hysterically and pleading for more. The scene was rocking as the werewolves moved to the undead reggae band's dance hall grooves. Meanwhile in the kitchen, Frankenstein bakes some Alice B. Toklas brownies and cakes.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
This is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
The party would have gone on till we all passed out, but just then we heard a blood-curdling shout. Watch out! Beware! Cover your necks! Dracula's got the munchies and he's totally wrecked.
He smoked some hash.
He smoked some monster hash.
Some monster hash.
He was completely smashed.
He smoked some hash.
Welcome back, and thanks for tuning in to the Pace Radio Show. As always, we're live on Lifestyle Radio, but podcasts, you can find them afterwards at Mixcloud, YouTube, and other social media, so check us out there as well. Tonight we feature the music of a band known as The Toys. Well, and I'm sure many other people know them for the song I Smoke Two Joints. Wikipedia tells me that The Toys are an American reggae band. I didn't know that. And they're both based in Oregon, and that their music style has been described as a cross between Bob Marley and the Bare Naked Ladies. So with Halloween around the corner, as I mentioned earlier, I thought I'd play the song Monster Hash. Tonight on the Pace Radio Show, we are joined by our guest, Tracy Curley of the Karma Cup, which we've been talking a lot about, and there's always more to talk about that. And my joint host, Debbie Stultz-Giffin. Debbie and Tracy, we're in the last segment here. We know Tracy has some more work to do tonight, so she'll be leaving at the top of the hour, so we got about 10 minutes more with her. So I'll let you fire away with some questions, Deb.
Thanks, Al. One of the things, Tracy, I found kind of neat and I know you did too, was your mom's comment about the weekend.
Yeah. So I'm from an Irish East Coast family. I'm a Prince Edward Island girl, and both my great grandfathers were rum runners. Um, Prohibition is fighting is something that comes genetically in my family. It's inherited apparently. But one of the things my mother said to me very early on in my career was, just don't call me for bail, kid. And when I and when I got home this weekend, I was tired, I was emotional, I was a lot of things. And there was a message from my mother, and she just said, way to go, kid. I wouldn't have been mad if you got arrested. And just now go get some rest. Um, and just knowing that I had my family's support throughout all of this craziness, because a lot of people just looked at us and thought, people from the outside of the cannabis industry, when they realize that you're doing things like this and these acts of civil disobedience, they kind of look at you like you're a little crazy. And I guess, yeah, we are. But we got here by faith, will, and determination. And I couldn't be more proud of what we did or why we did it. The city of Toronto, especially here, we have a long history with dispensaries. We have a long history of marijuana. For them to change their mind and try to shut us out now is insulting. And frankly, municipal licensing and standards has beaten me a couple of times in the last few months as we've fought against the Project Claudia raids. It was nice to finally win one.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I know a lot of people in our industry don't have the support of their families, so I know how fortunate I am to have a mom that loves me and loves and believes in what I do.
Well, it must make a huge difference, because I know in some instances it causes great division in families and people not speaking to each other and the whole nine. So,
and my parents are not consumers. My mother and my father are both retired from the Canadian military. I was raised as a base brought. Cannabis was never part of my life. But my family saw the difference it made in mine, and they've been supportive ever since. I am so fortunate.
You are indeed. You mentioned earlier that the Karma Cup team was small.
Very small.
To describe to our listeners what the makeup of the team actually was?
Well, we did have a couple of helpers along the way that helped us with social media, and one of the girls on our sales team. So one of the things that most people don't know is the majority of the team was female, which is different for an event of this kind. Although, Debbie, I know you have a lot of ladies on your team as well. But it was mostly women. And when we actually took the core group photo, so these were the people that were doing the conference calls and the scrambling and the everything else to kind of make sure that this event happened over months of time. When we took the group photo, there were actually only 4 of us on the Karma Cup team that managed to move thousands of people in 36 hours.
Well, and I'm sure not only you had increased workloads pre-event, but during the event, and some expectations must have shifted and changed hugely for all of you.
Oh yeah, completely. We like I said, we had delusions of grandeur. We had such big plans, and it really wasn't until Sunday when I actually had a chance to stop and look at what we'd done that I realized that the Karma Cup has always been a great event. It's been known as one of the best cannabis cups in the country, and even in North America. We had 109 samples this year go out to 100 judges. And that was before the festival. That itself was a lot of work. Just packing the judges' bags, we packed 22,660 packages.
Oh, smokes.
Like that was before we even did the festival. So this project was huge.
Huge.
And again, like, our expectations shifted and everything kind of had to change. But at the end, it was still better than last year was known as one of the better events in the country. We were still better than last year.
Yeah, was this your first year having the festival?
Yes. Yes, this was our first year with the festival. We've always done the cup and the gala dinner and the awards and things over the weekend, but we'd never tried to add a festival and vendors before. So it certainly was a learning curve. And hey, now we've got 30 tents. We're ready.
Yeah, that's right. You are. You can do it again. Did the I'm assuming that when you approach the city and you do permits and stuff like that, you would have to be some money involved. Did they take your money on you or anything like that?
That would actually something to be discussed with Sarah and the Karma Cup team, production team. Truthfully, like I'm going to say this right out. I'm getting much more credit for this than I deserve. I've actually only been. Sarah called me about 7 weeks ago, and said, "Ooh, truthfully, she'd bit off a little bit more than she could chew because at that point there were 3 people on the team, and I was brought in as number 4." And just kind of, I've got no problem with heavy lifting.
Yeah.
I thrive on it. So I was really lucky that there was a space for me to do that. And I've helped out over the years with this event because Sarah is fantastic, and the idea behind this event I've always stood behind. It was the idea that there's an open competition, an open cup where we didn't have to worry about how the judging was happening. Like, she has an online ballot that is amazing. The whole if we could have had everything we wanted the way that we wanted it, this would have been the Cirque du Soleil of marijuana.
Oh, for sure. Oh, it was. I know. I was so forward, like seeing the pictures of the drawing that you guys are using for your promotion and all that. And then like we talked about earlier, all of a sudden it's gone, and you pulled it off by going into there. That's.
So I mean, really, it's Sarah's vision, and it was Sarah's determination that got us there, and I will continue to support her and that. Until we get legalization, we're all happy and we get to retire.
Yeah, it'd be nice, but I would say that even after legalization, it will still continue because there'll be people who will be fighting to undo legalization.
We agree. Well, I don't know if there's going to be a fight to undo legalization, but I think there's certainly going to be a fight to control it.
Good. Oh, is that for sure?
We're already seeing that now. I heard you guys at the top of the show mention the Shoppers Drug Mart bid to now what they're actually looking into, from what I can gather, is that vague reference in the ACMPR to a licensed dealer. So Shoppers Drug Mart is now, by all accounts, looks like they're applying to become a licensed dealer of medical cannabis.
Is that even possible under the program?
If you actually look at the new ACMPR regulations, there are clauses for licensed dealers, and I was very curious as to what that meant when the new regulations came out on August 24th. I got my answer today.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Before you go, Tracy, I don't know whether you got any more questions, Deb.
Well, I'm sure we could talk for quite some time yet, but I know Tracy's time's limited this evening, and I think I'll stop with my questions now and maybe leave an open invitation with Tracy to be a guest in the future, and we can talk about all of the other things that she.
I would love to. There's lots of stuff coming up.
Oh yeah, like I said at the beginning of the show, I didn't. There's just so much we could talk about. So by all means, we got to have you back on here on the show because there's so much more to talk about.
I would love to. I just want to promo a little bit. If you have any,
go right ahead. We always
Any-
like our guests to promo somebody. Go ahead or something.
if anybody's looking for information on the Karma Cup, you can go to www.thekarmacup.com. You can also find them on Instagram at the Karma Cup, or you can find me at BudBabeTO on Instagram or TracyCurley.ca online.
Nice. Great. Okay. Well, Tracy, once again, thank you for being on the show. And we know you got to get bacon.
Yes. Cookies wait for no one, and I've got to get back to my regular day now that Karma Cup has gone past another year.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you again. We'll talk soon.
Yes, we will.
Thanks, Tracy. Good night.
Good night. There she goes. That was great talking to Tracy about things in behind the scenes at the Karma Cup that people would normally not know what's going on.
Well, for sure, and I'd certainly like to give kudos to Tracy, Sarah Sunday, and the other members of the Karma Cup team for pulling off what they just pulled off despite all odds.
Yeah. That's right, and it's them, even like their partners, the people who are close and around to them, that are helping them along, supporting what they're doing, and you heard Tracy there talk about her mom, even though so far away, sending a message of support.
Well, for sure, from PEI and just for our listeners' interest. PEI actually only has currently one dispensary. Also a province where they have huge difficulties signing doctors.
Is it a very, well, for lack of an anti-cannabis location?
Well, I think there's 4 federal ridings on the island, and when Harper was in power, at least 3 of those ridings were conservative, and had been for quite some time, I think.
Well, times are changing. They got 1 soon down the road. Maybe there'll be 2, 3.
Yes, and I think PEI is a little bit slower in respect to moving ahead with some issues, and cannabis is obviously one of them.
One of them, yeah. Well, eventually it'll make its way. One thing I wanted to talk to you, Deb, before we depart at some point here. As Tracy said, a lot of the people that worked on this cup were females. The women within the cannabis community. Yourself, you're chairperson of Moms. You guys host an event as well. What do you think about your opinion of the ladies within the community? Are they? I know at one time the Normal Women's Alliance and Kelly used always talk about how when alcohol prohibition ended, how the big role that the mothers and the women played in ending alcohol prohibition. You seeing something along the same line here with the cannabis end?
I certainly see women playing quite a role in all things cannabis, shall we say. I think it's probably, I'll go out on a limb and say I think it's probably harder for women on one level where many of us are mothers or have been mothers, and there's always that fear of losing your children to Children's Aid Society, certainly by becoming involved in either activism or the industry or both.
Yeah. And you look at all those people who are involved that were working in those dispensaries during the raids. How many of them could be parents? And now all of a sudden they're battling Children's Aid Society for trying to protect the children, so they can keep them.
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous when there's been nothing scientifically been shown to prove that parents who consume cannabis are bad parents. In fact, I think if we were to look at things, we'd find that the opposite were true.
I think you would. I think you would as well. You know, it's there's
I
a like
this is
there seems to be they believe their own stories. Like, you know, when I was reading that stuff there about Ottawa, and they wanting to shut down the dispensaries, they're talking about safety of the community and things like that. And I'm thinking, well, what kind of what's happening where people are a threat? You know, and they seem to do that with everything they talk about, whether it's a dispensary or whether it's dealing with children or.
Well, for sure, they certainly like to go a long ways to demonize cannabis
Oh,
and the
yeah.
people who consume it.
And as we saw in the Allard case, you know, they had their expert witnesses that all got shot down. You know, they couldn't prove anything. And, you know, every time I read something like this in the newspaper, I just think, well, you know, what are they, you know, what are they talking about? And it doesn't, there isn't any threats. You don't see anything happening. You know, I know here in Peterborough, I drove by there before it got closed down, and I would see a lineup of people outside. I didn't see a disturbance. You know, it's the same thing with this
No,
Karma Cup.
Tracy talking about the lineups to get in, and it didn't seem as if there were any disturbances.
No,
It's
no, exactly.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
I know. From my time there, that the police never showed up as far as being called there because there was a problem or an issue. I never saw an ambulance there. You know, so I don't know. I don't see where that threat exists. I mean, you could pack as many people as they did in there. Like Tracy mentioned, they had 650 people Sunday morning in the first hour. We never asked her how many people they had over the whole weekend.
No.
You know,
We held a hemp festival
correct.
in 2004, and the worst fallout of it was that one of the guys that was a drummer in one of the many bands we had playing had a bug fly in his ear, and he had to go to the hospital to have it removed.
Oh, gee, and that would have happened. That would have happened if there wasn't any cannabis on site.
Well, for sure. You know, I don't think they're particularly attracted to the smell of cannabis smokers' ears.
No, exactly. When the show got started, you mentioned about a health show that Mom was recently involved in, and you're going to be in that again?
Well, yes. There was a wellness expo in Moncton last weekend that ran Saturday and Sunday, and the first weekend in November it will be held in Halifax.
So this is something that you've go ahead.
For anyone who happens to be listening who might be interested in attending, if they were to check on the Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana Facebook wall, the pinned post at the top is information about the Wellness Expo in Halifax, and there's actually a code there that you could enter in their website. All of the information is there to get free passes to attend the event.
Nice. Get the code. Yeah, go to mom.ca, get your code, and get in for free.
It is, and actually in Moncton and in Halifax as well. Marcel Gignac will be doing a presentation on the new access to cannabis for medical purposes regulations. We'll have copies of all of the new paperwork there for patients who'd like to be able to access that, as well as a plethora of information about cannabis as medicine.
Well, and then what else? I guess I gotta imagine other types of wellness stuff is there. Everything from Reiki to pills and creams and things.
You've got it.
Yeah. And
that very thing. But interestingly enough, in Moncton, there were 3 other cannabis-related booths. I think in Halifax, at least at the moment, I checked this afternoon, I believe we're going to be the only one.
Yeah,
but it was interesting to see that much forward movement.
Yeah.
As far as mainstreaming.
Now, as far as obviously, like they're allowing you into it, but do they still give you, that evil eye type thing?
Oh God, no! If anything, it's the exact opposite. This isn't the first time that we've done the wellness expos,
Nice.
And Tracy mentioned the Cup and Festival that Mum did this summer, and one of the primary purposes that we did our Harvest Festival and John Cook Memorial Cup was to raise funds so that we could go out again this fall and do that sort of thing, because certainly they come with a hefty price tag. But the first time that we attended the Wellness Expo in Halifax, the gentleman who was coordinating it was simply over the moon when I approached him for us to have a booth there. And he was pushing quite hard, wanting us to attend all of the expos that they were doing around Atlantic Canada, because that year, I believe, they were in all 4 Atlantic provinces and had at least a half a dozen of them on the go.
So you get, what do you get, like a 10 by 10 booth?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And then Marcel, so Marcel will have a big stage to himself and explain the program to people who are, explain the ACMPR program to those sitting in chairs.
Yes, it's sort of like a classroom setting, if you will, a larger room where people can congregate and people do their presentations and chance to ask some questions.
Yeah, it's nice. It's fantastic that they allow that they really want you involved, because that's the type of grassroots advocacy that gets down to the people on the ground who you would probably never ever reach, because they don't follow the cannabis community, and then they just stumble across you at these events.
Well, it's certainly interesting watching people's facial expressions. Oh my, I wished I'd have had a camera quite a few times. But when we did the Wellness Expo the first time, our booth was on a corner, and opposite our corner was one of the entries to the event, and you could see people coming in and looking up and going, Maritimers Unite for, and they either lit up like a Christmas tree or looked like they'd bit into a lemon, one or the other. It was even more interesting at a seniors expo we did that year. Because I don't know about you, but I find the older I get, the easier the filters seem to fall off. So we had many animated conversations with seniors who were passing through, and in fact managed to change a few minds along the way. But there was one older lady who picked up on the fact that all 4 of us working the booth were engaged in conversation. I just kind of caught her out of the corner of my eye. She froze on the spot and waited until at least a couple of us could possibly hear what she had to say. And in a very loud voice, she said, And I'm against that, and kind of marched away. But she wanted to make sure that we heard her opinion.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your opinion. Everybody's
And I,
allowed to have one.
well, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Exactly. I can remember, I was laughing there about the people's faces and that because when I was helping treating yourself with the wellness shows and stuff, I know exactly what you mean. They'll look on people's faces, and then some people look at you and they just smile, and I'd say, "See that? It works. You didn't even have to consume it." Put a smile on their face, eh? And then you get some people, they would walk by, and then they would slowly back away from their spouse and their children, and they come back to the booth and ask questions.
Yes, we had several of those situations.
Yeah.
We had one young man stand back very, very quietly, waiting until the table was completely clear to come forward and talk. And we were able to connect him with a signing physician, and he was a young man who was experiencing anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts and tendencies, and just wanted to have access to cannabis because he knew it helped him, and he wanted to have that relief of being legal and not have to worry.
And
And
just
it,
for
it
him
was
to,
certainly
and it was
certainly
probably
a wonderful certainly a wonderful feeling to be able to steer him in the right direction.
yes, it is. The because when you like for him especially, you mentioned all those concerns he had. For him to be able to stand there and even wait for people, knowing that he was going to step ahead, and even though he waited for people to leave, others could come in right in behind him.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So that was good. Well, Deb, is there anything else that Mom's got going on that you'd like to mention before we shut her down for the night?
Not in November that I can think of off of the top of my head. Between the Wellness Expo and our regular monthly meeting, I think that about covers it.
You still doing those? You still live streaming those? Didn't you
Yes,
have one
we
that you
are.
had? Yeah,
We
yeah.
have been.
And you can find them at you have them at the mum.ca website.
Actually, those are buried on our Facebook wall right now. We've been having some issues with our website, but we should soon be able to have all of those things shared there as well.
Great. Well, have you got just like everybody else, a shout out?
Well, I was just going to shamelessly plug the fact that we were going to be at the Wellness Expo in Halifax at Exhibition Park next weekend, but I've already done that.
So what time? What's your times for down there?
Saturday from 10 until 7, I believe, and Sunday from 10 until 5.
Yeah. How about your court program? How's that?
Oh, the court support.
Yeah.
Chris has been fairly busy. Chris Backer, going to several court appearances, but there's nothing huge to report. There will be a trial coming up for a gentleman in Nova Scotia who. Here's one for you. They found 5 clones in the house that they raided. The house wasn't even registered in his name. It was in his girlfriend's name, and technically there was nothing to track him to that physical location. But they found five clones.
5 clones.
They found, I believe, 12 more clones totally off of the property, but because they all looked the same, he's being charged with all of them.
They're green.
So it would be enough plants to put him in line for a potential mandatory minimum sentence.
For clones.
For
That are like
clones.
worth like 12 clones together, so you're looking at like $100. Unless you're an LP. An LP that would probably be about what?
But I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous in
It
any
is.
small rural town in Nova Scotia, and this would be one of them. There aren't that many people selling clones that it wouldn't be out of the question. I mean, they could have gone down the road 3 more properties, and they probably would have found clones that would have matched those as well.
Yeah. That's
Guys, there's limited places where people can buy them, and if they're freshly bought and all in styrofoam cups with the same names marked on them, it doesn't mean that they all belong to one person, that they might find in possession of a few of them.
That'd be like saying that they're arresting him for having a stolen car, and we're going to arrest him for that car over there as well. We don't know whether he stole it or not, but
yeah. But we believe maybe it was stolen, so it probably was him.
Yeah. Geez, well, I wish him luck on that one. It's just 5 clones just doesn't, or 12 clones total just don't make sense. Well,
brutal. Certainly, but he's mounting a constitutional challenge, and I don't have the date for that right off of the top of my head, and I'm not sure if he does it at this stage in the game, but it's certainly ridiculous. He has a proven medical need that he has since had verified by a physician who was willing to sign his exemption paperwork.
Wow. You said he had a doctor willing to sign his paperwork?
He finally found one who was willing.
And he'll go to court with that. So that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, certainly he's been self-representing, but certainly the Crown's been aware of the fact that the medical need has been justified.
Like even medical or not, just to go after somebody for clones, for these few clones. I'm just, if you could see me, I'm just shaking my head.
I can almost hear it. Well, here's another one for you if you want to get on the side of ridiculous. One of our neighbors was charged. When they went to his house, they found a pan of seedlings. He said he thought there were 6 or 7 there. He'd seen them a couple of hours before. By the time the cops counted them, and I think they must have gone through the soil with toothpicks looking for sprouted seeds, they had reported 20 or 21 on the news. He had a furnace fan and a fluorescent light on them, and by the time they got the RCMP got done describing what he was doing, it made it sound like a small grow up.
And it's just and people are paying for stuff like this, and here we have an epidemic in North America where people with fentanyl and other crazy pill popping drugs, and they're worried about people like this.
Well, really, I mean, here in Nova Scotia alone, just this week, it was reported that the number of opiate overdose deaths had increased dramatically. For a relatively small province, we're up to 70 deaths already for 2016, which exceeds the number for 2015 in total.
And you still got months to go, a couple months still to go.
Yes, fentanyl's one of the main players, apparently.
Yeah, it is. I've seen some reports too on the news about some other stuff that's coming through, something to do with grain of salt and elephant tranquilizers. So I don't know why people do that, but the focus obviously should be changing, and instead of chasing people who are trying to make themselves better, they should be helping people who are going the wrong route. And that way they can get help.
For sure. When you look at the devastation caused by chemicals and street drugs, their priorities are all wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
And
That's
their
right.
approach is all wrong.
Yes, and someday, hopefully, they'll learn that. So, all right, Debbie. Well, we're down to the last 5 minutes here, so basically, I'm just going to remind everybody to don't forget to go to the PACE website if they're looking for some free treating yourself stuff. There will be DVDs, as we mentioned earlier, that we're going to be giving away. There's also going to be the magazines. Oh, just so you know, your copy of Grassroots Advocate will be going out this week as well, Deb.
Oh, well, thank you, Al. And actually, the last batch I saved and sent off to the Moncton Expo, and I'll probably take these to the Halifax Expo for distribution.
It's nice to know that they're going out, going to places like that, and people are getting access to them. So, where else was I going to mention? There was something else. Oh, I want to throw a shout out to our sponsors here at the radio show too. That's BMA Hydroponics. They've been with us since day one, all 3 years, as we mentioned earlier. And they are also when Al and I headed to Toronto we did it with Kim and did the Karma Cup. BMA also got us some nice hoodies, so people got to see us walking around with the big logo on the back.
I was admiring those. Nice job.
Yes. So, okay. As well as CC Nexus, the cannabis seed wholesaler. They've sent me 3 dozen coffee mugs. I'm gonna have to send you one of those in the mail, Deb, unless you want to come up here and pick it up. And I've been able to give away some of those, and look forward to giving away more of them. So
I'm
maybe I'll throw them in.
to get an official mug.
Yeah, an official mug. Yep, Pace Radio Show mug. I've heard some really nice compliments. How the color just stands out on them. So get them around. All right, where are we now? So basically, let's wrap things up. I'm gonna let everybody know that we'll be back next Wednesday. I'll be joined by joint host Kim Cooper and her guest. I know she's got somebody lined up, but just the name slips me right now. You can find Pace on Twitter at Pace Radio, and we're also on Facebook. As I mentioned several times, you can find us online at pace-online.ca. Thank yous go out to our sponsors, BMA Hydroponics and CC Nexus, plus our producer, Al Rapp of Lifestyle Radio, the man behind the baggie, as we like to call him. Also, a big thank you to our guest, Tracy Curley of the Karma Cup, and so much more. Deb, as we mentioned, we're going to have her back on the show.
Definitely.
She's got, as we mentioned, she's off to do some baking right now. So, and thank you to you, Deb, for coming on every month and bringing a guest on and talking to everybody. We really appreciate that. And it's always nice to hear it from the East Coast. What you guys are doing down there.
Always a pleasure, Al.
Yeah. And thank you to everybody who listens to the program, to our listeners, and for tuning in to the program. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
For tuning in to the program. Thank you.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.